Most people who watched this Family Feud episode remembered the 16-year-old girl standing at the podium with tears running down her face. They missed the woman sitting in the fourth row of the studio audience, a woman wearing a headscarf and a borrowed coat, who had no idea why her daughter had really brought her to Atlanta, and who was about to hear something on a game show stage that her own child had been hiding from her for 11 months. Steve Harvey asked a question he had asked hundreds of times before. A simple Family Feud question, the kind that usually gets answers like a car or a vacation or good grades. But this 16-year-old girl paused. Her hands gripped the podium, and when she answered, the entire studio went quiet. In a way, it had never gone quiet before. By the time she finished speaking, Steve had tears running openly down his face. The competing family had abandoned their side of the stage entirely, and camera operators who had spent years separating themselves from what happened under the lights were sitting down at their stations because their legs would not hold them. And Steve Harvey did something that had never happened in the show's 45-year history. He walked away from the podium, knelt in front of a teenager, and said 5 words that would be replayed in oncology waiting rooms and high school hallways across the country. "I see you, sweetheart, stop." The date was July 12, 2020. Studio 31 in Atlanta was running warm for a Sunday afternoon taping, the kind of warmth that makes the audience fan themselves with their programs and makes the crew roll their sleeves between setups. Steve Harvey walked out at 2:35 p.m. to a standing ovation, tugged at his collar in an exaggerated gesture that got a laugh, and opened with a riff about the air conditioning being set to light suggestion instead of actual cold. The energy was easy, comfortable. The Whitfield family stood on stage left, Kayla Whitfield at the front, 16 years old, 5'4", wearing a matching teal shirt that was slightly too large because the screen printing company had not had her size, and she had taken the next one up without complaint. Behind her stood her Aunt Denise, her Uncle Robert, her cousin Tamika, and her grandmother's best friend, Miss Lorraine, who Kayla had listed as family on the application because Miss Lorraine had been at every birthday party, every school play, and every hospital visit for as long as Kayla could remember, and paperwork was not going to be the thing that kept her off this stage. The opposing family, the Andersons from Charlotte, were already loose and laughing on stage right, a family of 5 led by a retired postal worker named Harold, who had been cracking jokes with the warm-up comedian. Kayla stood at the podium and smiled. She waved. She looked confident and poised and 16 in the way that 16-year-olds are when they have decided to perform adulthood before they are ready for it. But her right hand, the one the camera could not see, was gripping the inside edge of the podium so tightly that the metal was pressing a line into her palm. And in the fourth row of the studio audience, a woman in a teal headscarf was watching her daughter and smiling and clapping and had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. Nicole Marie Whitfield was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer on August 19, 2019. Kayla was 15. She was sitting in the passenger seat of her mother's car in the parking lot of the Emory Winship Cancer Institute when Nicole came out of the building and got into the driver's seat and sat there for a full minute without starting the engine. Kayla watched her mother's hands on the steering wheel. They were not shaking. They were perfectly still, the kind of still that only happens when a person is holding every muscle in their body in place to prevent the one movement that would let everything collapse. Nicole turned to Kayla and said, "Baby, I have to tell you something." She told her. Stage 3. Invasive ductal carcinoma. The tumor was 4.2 centimeters. The treatment plan was aggressive, 16 rounds of chemotherapy over 6 months, followed by surgery, followed by radiation. Nicole said it in the voice of a nurse explaining a procedure to a patient. She was a nurse, an RN at Grady Memorial Hospital. and the clinical language was the armor she reached for when the personal language was too dangerous. Kayla listened. She did not cry. She asked 2 questions. Are you going to die? And what can I do? Nicole said, no, baby, I'm going to fight this, and you can just be my daughter. Kayla nodded. She accepted the first answer. She rejected the second one silently, completely, and permanently. She was 15 years old, and she had already decided that being Nicole Whitfield's daughter meant something more than what her mother was willing to ask for. Over the next 4 months, Kayla watched the chemo change her mother. She watched Nicole's hair come out in the shower drain, first in strands, then in clumps that Kayla found in the bathroom trash can wrapped in tissue paper, because Nicole was trying to hide even this. She watched her mother's weight drop, 8 pounds, then 12, then 22. She watched Nicole come home from treatment with a gray tint to her skin and a metallic taste in her mouth that made her push food around her plate without eating. She watched her mother put on the headscarf for the first time, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, tying it with hands that were shaking, practicing until the knot looked deliberate instead of necessary. Kayla watched all of it. She memorized the treatment schedule. She learned the names of every medication. She read about invasive ductal carcinoma on the school library computers, scrolling through medical journals she only half understood, looking for survival rates and response rates, because the numbers were the only thing that felt solid in a world that had become entirely uncertain. Nicole was a single mother. She had raised Kayla alone since Kayla's father, Deshaun, moved to Houston when Kayla was 3 and reduced his involvement to a birthday card that arrived, when it arrived, between 1 and 4 weeks late. Nicole made $28.50 an hour at Grady. She worked 3 12-hour shifts per week, the standard nursing schedule, and she was good at her job in the way that people are good at things they were born to do, with a steady competence that made patients trust her and colleagues rely on her and supervisors promote her. Their apartment in Decatur cost $1,180 a month. Nicole's insurance through the hospital covered 85% of in-network cancer treatment. The remaining 15%, the copays, the anti-nausea medications not on the formulary, the wig she would need when the chemo took her hair, the compression garments for lymphedema management, came to approximately $2,400 per month. Nicole's take-home pay after taxes was $4,100 per month. After rent, utilities, car payment, groceries, and Kayla's school expenses, she had $1,640 for everything else. The treatment copays consumed $2,400. The math produced a deficit of $760 every month, a hole that Nicole filled by canceling cable, then canceling internet, then stopping her retirement contributions, then selling her dining room table and chairs to a neighbor for $200, then quietly returning the birthday present she had already bought for Kayla, a laptop for school, to Best Buy for a $649 refund. She told Kayla the laptop was backordered. Kayla noticed. Not the specific financial details, Nicole hid those with the same clinical precision she used to deliver difficult diagnoses to patients, but the architecture of the concealment. The dining room table replaced by a folding card table. The cable box gone. The internet gone. Kayla did her homework at the school library now, staying until 5 p.m. every day, and she told her friends she liked the quiet. The thinner grocery bags. The way Nicole started drinking water at dinner instead of the sweet tea she had drunk every evening for as long as Kayla could remember. Kayla saw all of it. And she did what Kayla Whitfield had been doing since she was 3 years old and her father's car pulled out of the driveway for the last time. She found the gap between what was needed and what was available, and she stepped into it without being asked. She got a job. She was 15. Georgia labor law allows minors to work at 14 with a permit, and Kayla had been waiting for a reason to use hers. She applied at a fast food restaurant on Ponce de Leon Avenue and started working 20 hours a week at $9.25 an hour. She told Nicole it was for college savings. Nicole looked at her daughter for a long time and said, "Baby, you don't need to work." Kayla said, "I want to, Mom. It's good experience." The first paycheck was $296.40 after taxes. Kayla deposited it in a savings account she had opened at a bank branch near the restaurant, an account Nicole did not know about. She did not spend a dollar of it. She wore the same 3 outfits to school in rotation. She stopped going to the movies with her friends, told them she was saving for a car, which was a lie she had calibrated to sound exactly like the kind of thing a 16-year-old would say. She dropped out of the school dance team because the uniform cost $85, and $85 was 2 more shifts at the register. Her best friend Aaliyah asked her why she quit. Kayla said she wanted more time for homework. Aaliyah looked at her the way best friends look at each other, when they know the truth is somewhere behind the words, but they love the person enough not to push. Kayla's grades did not slip. She maintained a 3.92 GPA while working 20 hours a week and giving away her lunch money and carrying a secret that would have crushed most adults, because Kayla Whitfield had decided at 15 that she was going to save her mother's life, and nothing, not fatigue, not hunger, not the loneliness of carrying something this heavy without telling a single person, was going to stop her. She lost 11 pounds. Nicole noticed. She asked Kayla if she was eating enough. Kayla said, "Mom, I eat all day at work. Free food." There was no free food. Employees got a 50% discount, and Kayla never used it because the discounted meal cost $3.75, and $3.75 was $3.75 closer to $19,200. By the time she was 16, she had saved $4,180. The total remaining treatment and surgery copay balance was $19,200. Kayla needed $15,020 more. She applied to Family Feud on her school library computer during her lunch period, a lunch period she spent without eating because she had started giving her lunch money to Nicole in the form of grocery store gift cards she said she had won in a school raffle. Nicole believed her. Nicole wanted to believe her. Kayla typed on the application, "My mom has cancer. She doesn't know I'm applying. I need to win $20,000 so she can finish chemo." She told Nicole they were going to Atlanta for a mother-daughter trip. She told her a friend's family had given them tickets to a TV show taping. She told her it would be fun. Nicole agreed because the chemo had taken 22 pounds and most of her energy, and her daughter was offering her something that looked like joy. And joy was a currency Nicole could no longer afford to refuse. She sat in the 4th row of the studio audience in her teal headscarf, matching her daughter's shirt, and she had no idea that her 16-year-old child was about to stand on a stage and say the thing Nicole had been hiding from her for 11 months. The game was in the 3rd round. Steve asked a question. Name something you would do anything to give someone you love. Standard question. Easy answers. The board was loaded. Steve turned to Kayla. She looked at him. She looked at the 4th row. She could see her mother, the headscarf, the borrowed coat, the smile that was thinner than it used to be, but still there, still trying. Kayla opened her mouth. What came out was not a survey answer. More time, she said. I'm playing for my mom's chemo. She has cancer, and she doesn't know I'm here for that. The studio fell completely silent. Nicole's hands went to her mouth. In the 4th row, on camera. The sound she made was not audible over the studio silence, but the movement was. A woman pressing both hands against her own face as if trying to hold something inside it. Steve Harvey stopped. His hand was mid-gesture. His face did something the camera caught with perfect, unforgiving clarity. A sequence of recognitions moving across his features like weather, confusion, understanding, then something deeper than both. His jaw tightened. His eyes filled. He did not wipe them. He let the tears come, openly, on national television, because this was not a moment that allowed for performance. He walked to Kayla. He knelt in front of her, not beside her, in front of her, looking up at a 16-year-old girl who was gripping a podium to stay upright. And he said, "I see you, sweetheart. Stop." Kayla's composure broke. It broke the way a teenager's composure breaks, completely, without defense, without the practiced walls that adults spend decades building. She let go of the podium, and her knees gave, and Steve caught her and held her the way a father holds a daughter, one hand on the back of her head, and she cried into his shoulder with a sound that made the audience go still in a way that had nothing to do with television. The studio fell completely silent for the second time. 300 people watching a child who had been carrying a secret for 11 months finally put it down. A camera operator on the left platform was crying so hard her monitor was blurred. Even the crew had stopped, hardened television professionals pressing hands and sleeves against their faces. Steve held Kayla for a long time. Then, he stood. He turned to the camera. "I want to talk to everyone watching at home right now," he said. His voice was raw. "This girl is 16 years old. She got a job. She saved every paycheck. She gave her lunch money to her mother disguised as grocery gift cards. She applied to this show without telling her mother. She is 16. He paused. 16, and she has been carrying this alone. He turned to the fourth row. "Ma'am," he said to Nicole, "your daughter is the reason we're all standing here right now." Nicole was already standing. She was already moving toward the stage. A production assistant opened the audience gate, and Nicole walked down the aisle and up the steps and across the stage, and she reached Kayla, and she took her daughter's face in both hands, the way a mother holds a face she needs to see clearly, and she said, "Baby, why didn't you tell me?" Kayla said, "Because you would have told me to stop." Nicole closed her eyes. She pulled Kayla against her chest and held her. She did not speak. She did not need to. But Steve wasn't done. "Family Feud is awarding the Whitfield family the full $20,000 prize tonight," he said. The audience erupted. Nicole and Kayla were still holding each other. Neither heard it. But Steve wasn't done. He held up his hand. "Emory Winship Cancer Institute has been contacted during our break," he said. "They are waiving the remaining copay balance for Nicole Whitfield's treatment, surgery, radiation, and all follow-up care in full." The room went still. 300 people stopped breathing. Nicole lifted her head from Kayla's shoulder. She looked at Steve. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. Steve's voice cracked. "And I am establishing a fund tonight for families of cancer patients, because no child should have to get a job to pay for their parents' chemotherapy. No child." The Anderson family crossed the stage. Harold Anderson, the retired postal worker, reached Nicole and said, "You raised a warrior." His wife Gloria was holding Aunt Denise. Their daughter Brianna, who was 17, stood beside Kayla and put her arm around her and whispered something that made Kayla nod and close her eyes. Steve Harvey turned away from the cameras. He walked upstage, pressed his handkerchief to his face, and his shoulders shook. A floor director who had worked on the show for 12 years said it was the first time she had ever seen Steve unable to speak for more than 15 seconds. The studio fell completely silent one final time. And in that silence, Miss Lorraine, 71 years old, standing behind the partition with both hands clasped in front of her chest, began to pray. softly, steadily, the way a woman prays who has been praying for 50 years and knows that the words matter less than the intention behind them. Today, Kayla Whitfield is 20 years old. She is a sophomore at Emory University on a full academic scholarship, studying pre-med. She wants to be an oncologist. When the episode aired 5 weeks after the taping, the clip of Kayla saying she has cancer and she doesn't know I'm here for that was viewed 69 million times in its first 2 weeks. It trended #1 in 33 countries. 3 months after the taping, Nicole completed her final round of chemotherapy. The surgery followed 8 weeks later, a successful lumpectomy performed by a surgical team at Emory Winship. Radiation completed the treatment plan that December. Nicole rang the bell in the oncology ward hallway. The bell patients ring when they finish treatment, and Kayla was standing beside her, holding her hand, and the sound of that bell traveled down the corridor, and every nurse on the floor stopped what they were doing and applauded. Nicole's hair grew back. It came in different, curlier, softer, darker than before, and Kayla told her she looked like a movie star, and Nicole laughed in a way she had not laughed in 14 months. The first morning Nicole looked in the mirror and saw hair instead of a headscarf, she stood there for a long time. Then she called Kayla into the bathroom. "Look," she said. Kayla looked. She reached out and touched her mother's hair, gently, the way a person touches something they are not sure is real. And Nicole watched her daughter's face in the mirror and saw something she had not seen in over a year. The face of a child who was not carrying anything. Just a girl touching her mother's hair. Just that. A year after the taping, Nicole returned to work at Grady Memorial. She requested a transfer to the oncology unit, where she now works as a chemotherapy infusion nurse, the nurse who sits with patients during treatment and tells them what she knows from the inside, not just the clinical inside, but the real inside. Today, the Whitfield Family Cancer Fund, seated with Steve Harvey's $100,000 contribution, has raised over $9 million, and provided financial assistance to more than 740 families of cancer patients whose children were bearing hidden financial burdens. Kayla volunteers at the fund every Saturday. Nicole does not know exactly how much money Kayla saved during those 11 months. Kayla has never told her. Some numbers a daughter keeps to herself, not because they are secrets, but because they are gifts that were given in the dark and do not need to be counted in the light. In a 2023 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Steve Harvey was asked about the moment Kayla spoke. He shook his head. "I've met a lot of brave people on that stage," he said. "I have never met anyone braver than that girl. She was 16. She got a job and gave every dollar to her mother's treatment and never said a word. For 11 months. He paused. "And when she said she doesn't know I'm here for that, I could feel every parent in that studio break. Because every parent asked themselves, would my child do that for me? And then the harder question, would I even know?" Last May, on Kayla's 20th birthday, Nicole gave her a gift. It was a small box. Inside was a necklace, a thin gold chain with a pendant shaped like a bell. The oncology bell. The one Nicole had rung when her treatment ended. On the back of the pendant, engraved in letters so small Kayla had to hold it up to the light to read them, were 2 words. "You rang. You rang." 2 words engraved on a bell-shaped pendant from a mother to the daughter who saved her life without permission. Because sometimes the bravest thing a child can do is not what they say on a stage in front of 300 strangers. It is what they do in the 11 months before that. The quiet months. The lunch money months, the months of working 20 hours a week at a fast food restaurant and telling everyone it is for college, while every dollar goes into an account their mother does not know exists. That is not sacrifice. That is love so complete it does not need to be seen to be real. It just needs to be there. And it was, every single day, for 11 months. Without a word, if this incredible story of sacrifice and love moved your heart, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that the people who love us most are sometimes the ones carrying the heaviest things in silence. Have you ever watched a child give everything for a parent's future? Let us know in the comments, and ring that notification bell for more stories that remind us what family truly means.